don't want any trouble. I'm already gone. Oh, guys, take it easy.
Try to find us. We'll be waiting for you. Julie and Mary, May 23rd.
How does a game go from a trailer like this?
Come on, Adam. You know what we want.
You don't stand a chance. Come on. Water! Water!
With over 3 million views, to being in development another 4 years after that trailer was released, and as a downloadable only title that's barely bigger than a gig. Welcome to Abandoned Save, where I highlight the good, not legendary games of the past. In today's video, I want to go back and remember Ubisoft's oft-forgotten survival game, I Am Alive. This game has a really interesting past, as it began development in 2005 by a developer called Darkworks as a full-length AAA survival game, but by the time it released in 2012, it was a download-only title made by Ubisoft Shanghai. Let me give you a quick rundown of its history leading up to release. Originally titled just Alive, the game went into development in 2005 by Darkworks, who are so small they don't even have their own Wikipedia page, and were known for only 2 games at the time, Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare and Cold Fear. Otherwise, they were just a support studio for Ubisoft working on things like Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. The trailer I showed earlier debuted at E3 2008, but the game then disappeared until March 2009 when Ubisoft announced that their Shanghai studio would be taking over development. Up until 2011, it was expected to be a first-person survival game set in the wake of a massive earthquake in Chicago, but when the trailer released in September in that year, it was set in the fictional city of Haventon, somewhere on the west coast, and with a new main character in third person. When asked about the change later, Ubisoft Shanghai's Director of Business and Marketing, Aurelien Palas, said that there's not one game that's been made, but 1, 2, 3, sometimes we get the second or third or fourth version, and that's what happened here. This is basically the second version, especially designed for Xbox Live Arcade and PSN in mind. As for the original version, it was apparently due to be cancelled, but the Shanghai studio managed to convince Ubisoft execs to let them use the idea to make a downloadable title which would keep the costs down. So let's take a look at what we ended up getting 7 years after the game first entered development. Our opening shows a woman at a desk looking at a camcorder where a man asks the viewer to deliver it to his house in Haventon if they find it somewhere. He shows off his gear, including a pistol with no bullets, and tells us it's been about a year since he flew out east, and he's walked the whole way home. He's looking for his wife and daughter Julie and Mary, and is definitely the most dedicated father I have ever seen. Then we get into the gameplay as that man, and we start climbing a bridge to get into the city. In I Am Alive, you have a stamina system that depletes as you climb, and if you run out of stamina while climbing, you fall. It's a more in-depth climbing system where you actually need to look where you're going and plan out your route as you go, and what's more, if you run out of stamina, you can actually mash the run button to sacrifice your total maximum stamina to stay on whatever you're climbing, giving you the means to survive a mistake. And like any mistake, it can be fixed with Plan B, aka water in this case. Walking into the sewers, we meet a man with a gun, and the game shows you its unique way of handling conflict in a post-apocalyptic world. Most games would have you fighting immediately, but here they try to make it more realistic, and people don't want to shoot or attack you most of the time, as long as you stay away from them. That's how we know Haventon isn't in Texas, by the way. Just ahead we find a dead end, and the map gets updated. This is another one of the really cool features of the game. You keep the same map of the city throughout, and as you run into obstacles that require you to go a certain way or make a road impassable, The main character, who has no name by the way, will mark it on his map in a way that a real person would potentially do in this situation. It adds to the realism of the game, and it actually makes following the map surprisingly easy. Across the gap we see a woman under attack, but there's no way across and nothing we can do. On the way around, we pick up a retry, and this is an interesting concept that really helps make the game work that I'll explain later. Then, when trying to open the door, we're attacked and pull our gun. Remember, this gun has no bullets, but the attacker doesn't know that, which I think is really cool. It's still a threat. You use it here to order him next to a hole and then kick him in like a true Spartan warrior, then pick up his machete to open the door. Then some more goons attack, and this time we wait until they get real close for a surprise attack. I got hit while I was downing the surrendering guy, but the second I pull the gun back out, the two new enemies hold their hands up and stop. You can try to save the bullet and take one out with the machete, but that got me killed, as it only really works if you're doing it when there's only one guy left. They won't just stand around and watch you kill someone. Another thing is that you don't necessarily even shoot to kill, the character aims center mass to avoid missing. This is most of what you can see in the combat in this game, but the realism is astounding. Also, I don't know about you, but you don't need to kill me with a gun to make me give in. One shot and I'm good, you win, so I get why you don't actually aim to kill here. Just further ahead, we run into someone asking for help healing her son, who was stabbed by the men we just killed, and you can provide a first aid kit that you would have just picked up right around the corner to help them. Doing so earns you a bit of information about the world and a retry, but you need the required resource to help them. This is interesting because, in reality, there's no reason to believe or help anyone you meet, especially in a situation like this. And in order to make the player put on their best behavior, they gave you a reward for doing it instead of having to think about whether you should. It ends up coming down to, do I have the resource? Yes, then I probably should. The only decision becomes whether you want to sacrifice that item. I feel like this is one of the places this game falls a little flat in what it's trying to accomplish, though it does better in other areas. We finally find his old apartment, but there's no one inside, and you can tell that they left in a hurry, but they did leave a letter for the main character saying that they're going to the emergency shelters, and the title drops. On the way out, there's a little girl looking for her mother, and we run off to chase her, hoping it's his daughter Mary, who is apparently around this age. It must be terrifying for her, though. Some dude in the apocalypse that she doesn't know chasing her around screaming Mary like Pepe Le Pew chasing that cat. Once she's cornered by some other dudes, I learned how combat really works, and that is you need to pick your targets. One of the guys has a gun, and I didn't shoot him right away and got shot because they do not hesitate. Then I gave the last guy enough time after I did shoot him to run over and pick the gun up to kill me with. This makes the combat a little formulaic, but the game is very short, so it doesn't really cause a problem. We rescue the girl named May and give her the camcorder. Our character then talks to someone on a radio that she had and promises to return May to him as her mother is missing, but the girl is sick and the dust is coming in, which there is apparently a lot of in the wake of a huge, seemingly national earthquake disaster. Makes sense. We don't know what caused what the characters refer to as the event, but my guess is Desmond forgot to put in the numbers. The man on the radio, Henry, tells us to go seek out the mall to get shelter until the dust settles. We run off, and I love the rope saddle he's made for May. She's like a little backpack going for a ride, including jumping around with her while she's totally cool with that and doesn't mind the extreme danger that they're in. We find a safe area, and it turns out May has a fever. Since we're apparently the patron saint of the end of the world, we're going to go look for some medicine in a supply crate somewhere that hasn't already been looted in the year since everything went down. So where could we possibly find something like that? Well, only someplace no sane person would ever attempt to reach. Hanging by a thread off an unfinished skyscraper. But no climb is too much for the hero of Soviet Haventon, so that's where we're headed. This requires us to go down into the dust, and as long as you're in it, your stamina will slowly drop, ultimately killing you if you're there too long. Why this guy would have all of this equipment and not so much as a surgical mask is beyond me, but apparently he never found a single one in the entire year he walked across the country. Oh shit, I got shot. Ah well, nothing some fruit and 2 bottles of painkillers can't solve. I then got in this confrontation, and another interesting thing is that while enemies don't know if you have bullets or not and will respect an empty gun, if you hold it on them too long, they'll stop trusting that and are willing to rush you again, which is a really nice touch for this system. After that, the great climb begins, and I want to talk about the retry system. I Am Alive is all about making choices with how you use your resources, and for something like that to stick, you need to prevent the player from abusing saves to get around mistakes. And that's exactly what this does. The game is easy enough on the normal difficulty to not have to think about it, but if that realism is what you're looking for, especially in a survival simulation game kind of like this, if you play on the harder mode with less available resources, you may end up being forced to live with your mistakes, because if you run out of retries, you have to start the entire level over instead of restarting at a checkpoint. That makes them very valuable on hard and forces you to consider getting into a fight before you do. So I actually think a super punishing system like that while on hard was perfect for the tone of the game they were trying to create. Hard mode may even be the right way to play the game in this case. Can you imagine doing all this to maybe get some medicine for some kid that you don't know? I thought I was a good person, but compared to this guy, I must be the devil himself. We are rewarded for our efforts, however, with not only the medicine, but also a grappling hook, because apparently the military thought people had 4 needs in this disaster: food, water, medicine, and the ability to make sick rope swings. Also, we're going to get down the skyscraper we just climbed by sliding down the side of it and desperately grabbing onto ledges as we go, like a real thrill seeker. You have to go back the way you came to bring back the medicine, and while you're at it, you can find people that need help throughout the city, like this girl who baited me into getting attacked by some goons. Too bad for her, I need a bullet to get her free from the handcuffs, and I don't have another one after killing those guys. I don't even feel bad. Maybe I'm not that great a person. You know what, on second thought, I probably didn't have to kill this guy either. I guess there's no maybe about it then, is there? With May feeling better, we're going to head to Henry now, and he suggests taking the subway tunnels to avoid the dust, which means confronting more people, like this guy who we kick into the fire while May is on our back. She's staying up late for some rated R movies tonight. Another thing that this game does very well at times is environmental storytelling. Here in the subway, these guys offer up some of their meat for the hungry child, but if you walk around the corner, you can find some people that were locked up by them. That meat was human meat, but the game never tells you that. It doesn't force you to find those people, it doesn't force you to save them, and it doesn't stop you from using the meat even after you know the truth, making it your choice to eat human meat or not. That whole section is presented very well, and really makes me wonder what could have been with a full game, like a lot of this game does. Afterward is the only climbing section in the entire game May ever reacts to, because apparently it's only scary when it's farther down and there's no spikes, like the first thing we jumped around with her on our back. And I got turned around here, so I had to freak her out twice. My bad.
This is not good. Here comes the part when the rail car starts to shake.
Why would you say that out loud, dude? Just trying to terrify the child for fun. I totally got shot with her on my back too, but I guess it's fine. She has a bulletproof vest with no name protecting her, and I have a pharmacy in my pockets. We finally arrive at Henry's place, and our character is starting to get annoyed with him for refusing to help, because he wants us to now go get a radio transmitter, but it turns out...
Because I can't.
The fact that he's managed to do so well for a year is impressive, I gotta give it to him. This also gives us access to the bow, which doesn't intimidate enemies for reasons I do not understand, but the arrows are retrievable so you can keep using it, and we're heading back out to get the radio. The fact that the current destination is marked on your map, but the game never tells you how to get there, and trusts you to look at the map and figure it out for yourself, is also a strong suit of this game to me. It's nice that it doesn't hold your hand, and while it's not hard to figure it out, it does add to the realism of the game ever so slightly, and I wouldn't expect Ubisoft of all people to have the balls to do something like that today. Oh hey, it's that woman again. Well, I have a few bullets this time, and I'm not that petty. I guess I'll help her. There are 20 total survivors you can find in Help, which I really think you need a guide to do on your own. But I think the game is a lot more interesting if you don't do that, and just help whoever you happen to find and have the resources for. It plays out like part of the story itself that way. Eventually, we find the signal of the radio, and it appears to be coming from a wrecked ship in the middle of the road on a big highway. Is it earthquakes or a flood? Somebody decide. Obviously, the ship is covered in dudes, but that gave me a chance to actually use the bow for the first time. The other thing that starts showing up here is armored men, which require you to go into free aim and shoot them in their unarmored bits. It's a bit difficult to control, but I like the idea. I got the transmitter eventually, and this is where I learned of the issues with the bow. I don't understand why they wouldn't be afraid of it. It still kills just like anything else.
Hey, stay back! I mean it!
Come on, what are you gonna do with that thing? Poke my eye out? An arrow can't do shit. Whoa, okay, calm down.
I mean it, stay back!
Serious. You can also pick up the body armor, which makes you basically immortal for a few hits because the enemies aren't smart enough to aim for your head. We rush back to Henry with the transmitter, but he tells us that May's mother is at the hotel. You can guess what's going on there. So now we have a new mission to go rescue her. The dust is really bad now and it's night, which makes visibility bad, and some of the goons from the ship followed us home. They had a lot of guns, but finally and more importantly, we have a gas mask. Someone finally thought to use one. It only slows the stamina loss in the dust, but it's still a nice upgrade, and it's a shame that it comes so late in the game.
About the woman you're looking for? If she was brought in this morning, she's probably been welcomed already. She must be in the bedrooms on the 4th floor.
Ah, welcomed. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Time to make our way up to the 4th floor then. Wait a second. There are no stall doors in these bathrooms. What kind of sick hotel is... You know, on second thought, I guess I already know the answer to that. It's really surprising when there are people in situations like this that you can't save, which makes no sense for our bleeding heart protagonist here, but the door didn't have an interact button, so what was he to do? I finally found May's mother in another room, popped 6 bottles of pills right in front of her, and then untied her. Don't worry, I will not operate any heavy machinery. As long as I don't do that, I can take all the pills I want. You then have to escort her out and back through the subway tunnels to get back to Henry. Yeah, you know, that really doesn't surprise me anymore after seeing the stuff he's done to help you. May is reunited with her mother, and she's able to contact a rescue ship with the transmitter, but they need a beacon to find us through the dust. Luckily, Henry has some leftover fireworks from a New Year's party, but they're going to have to be set off somewhere high up, so guess who gets to climb another skyscraper in the dust? This man will do anything to see his family again. This is the most perilous climb in the game, jumping over stuff that falls over as you jump from it, which is really cool, but it's absolutely insane. Who would do this? Once we finally manage to climb our way into the building, some men attack. I would love to know how the hell they got around in here, because there is no way they climbed up like I did. Then we find some more people and...
Hey, did you see my parents on the way up here? They're 1 floor below.
Oh. Well, we may have created orphans, but we also prevented one earlier, so neutral karma? They have a broken elevator, which is how they apparently got here normally, and this man next to it has dementia.
Hey, how did you get here? Hey, how did you get here?
So sad. You can actually fix the elevator for one of the game's achievements, but I didn't do that on this playthrough. We get to the top and set off the fireworks, then once again find ourselves sliding down the side of a skyscraper to get down. You end up back where the other people are, and this time the girl screams and calls you the killer, and further down one of the men tries to kill you. They did attack first, but to be fair, this was their house. The one thing I think is silly about the confrontation mechanic in this game is that it creates situations like this that, while cool, it also probably could have been avoided if our character had just talked to them once while he was there, but that's not an option. It doesn't really make any sense, but in a small game like this, I understand why they couldn't. Just imagine the potential the full game had. A lot of people were really excited about the idea when the game was announced, and they were mostly upset with the final release, even though it's still a pretty decent game, and I can understand why. We get back to Henry's place, and he's missing. May's mother is screaming that they took her and Henry went to look for her, so we split up the search and we give her the gun. Which sounds like a cool idea, except that lasts for all of 2 seconds as you get into unavoidable confrontation immediately while looking for May, and they all have guns, so you just pick up another one right away. I thought they really had something there to mix up the end of the game and change the way you approach combat, but in the end, nothing really changes. This final area, and it is the final area of the game, is full of enemies that will all charge you on sight, so it's actually pretty tough. I guess technically that means it is different than the rest of the game, but I think the idea of having to sneak around with a bow was a lot more interesting than this. I did find a second arrow here though, so I guess that's cool. It's to fight only these 10 guys, but beggars can't be choosers. We run into Henry's wheelchair while looking, but May is just passed, so fuck him, we're just gonna take her back to her mother. There's then another quake and water covers the area that we were just traveling through. This is another great idea. The terrain changing as you progress would have been awesome in the full game, but this is it. You walk May over to the boat, he drops her and her mother off, and then chooses to stay, potentially to help Henry and continue looking for his family. This is seen from the camcorder again, and when it ends, we cut back out to the woman who was watching the footage, and she begins to cry, zooming back out to the table and showing our character's equipment. Apparently this is either Julie or Mary, and our character is now dead. Well, that was a fucking lie now, wasn't it? At the end of it all, what finally came out for I Am Alive isn't bad at all. It's a neat experience that doesn't do too much, but also doesn't try to pad out its length to compensate. They had some really cool ideas, and who knows how many of them were lifted from the original build of the game, which apparently was almost finished, but didn't impress the Ubisoft leadership, and is how we ended up here. It's a shame we never got to see someone else take another shot at an idea like this, because as they said, their influences of the movies The Road and The Book of Eli are very apparent throughout the game, and those are the kind of survival stories that we don't get very often. They even said, we are definitely closer to the movie inspirations than the video game inspirations because no games have done this before. So they knew, but chose not to chase it any further. Ubisoft was originally planning to make I Am Alive a new series to run along with their cash cows, Assassin's Creed, and, at the time, Raving Rabbids. Still have no idea how that last one was so successful, but I don't think they do either. But you know what we got instead of an I Am Alive series? Watch Dogs. This ended up turning into Watch Dogs. Thanks, Ubisoft! Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing and liking the video to help the channel grow. Until then, I am Abandoned Save, and I'll see you in the next one.